This is a watermelon, this is a banana, and this is a carrot. This, and this didn't even exist until a few hundred years ago. And if you went up to someone in the Middle Ages and asked for a carrot, they would probably hand you this medicine they called carrot, and definitely not this thick and orange vegetable that you were looking for. When I found out the truth about fruits, my entire perception of nature and what I thought to be natural changed.
Changed my perception.
This is a painting of fruits by a famous Italian painter who lived more than 300 years ago. And it's obvious that these things over here are pears. But what kind of a watermelon is this? What's up with all the pretty spiral shapes inside? Like a lot of people, I just assumed that maybe the artist found some abnormal melons, or perhaps he took some artistic liberties with his melons. But look here, these are other paintings of watermelons from the same time period, and look, they all have that weird spiral pattern in the center. So where the hell were all the normal shaped melons then? The truth is that it was these spiral shaped melons that, over the years, transformed into the modern melons that we're familiar with. How? Well, the same way that this little guy who wouldn't survive for a second in the wild came to exist, by selective breeding. Imagine that you have an orange farm. If one of your orange trees has bigger fruit, then the next time you're going to plant a tree, you would use the seed from that orange tree. Or if you have a tree that gives you sweeter fruit and another that gives you fruits with fewer annoying seeds, then you could graft them together, and next harvest you might get sweeter fruits with fewer seeds. Now imagine doing this every year, and after your death, your children continuing your work until their demise. Fast forward a few hundred years and say hello to the Uber Orange, which probably doesn't look anything like the oranges that you grew many years ago. Well, the Uber Orange was only an analogy. Truth be told, oranges and other fruits like these juicy tomatoes, after many years of selective breeding, have reached the pinnacle of their genetic potential. So you probably won't see an orange that's going to be super different in the future. But still, people are coming up with new and surprising ways to breed fruits even today, like these grapes that taste like candy floss. But as you can see, fruits in the past definitely hadn't reached the pinnacle of their genetic potential. This one still hasn't. Like these sad carrots that were originally cultivated in the Iranian plateau until eventually these were turned orange in the Netherlands. Or these cucumbers that were thought to have poisonous peels. Nevertheless, some people started to cultivate them as medicine, and over the years, and maybe thanks to a couple of famines that made people desperate enough to grow these as food, today we have possibly one of the most delicious and definitely the most fragrant fruit that people call a vegetable. And you know what looks even stranger than an 18th century watermelon? An ancient Egyptian watermelon, of course, which was originally this tiny yellow thing that was only 50 millimeters wide. Mark Twain once said, "When one has tasted the watermelon, one knows what the angels eat." What he probably didn't know was that if angels tried the watermelon before humans had interfered with it, they probably wouldn't have swallowed. And don't even get me started on the grass family, which includes wheat, barley, and corn. Why the hell is corn categorized as grass? Well, you'd see why once you take a look at its ancestor. Corn today looks so different from what it used to look like that it had perplexed botanists for decades. As you can see, there seems to be a trend of improvement in the quality of produce. However, some people disagree with this notion when it comes to strawberries. They insist that the original wild variant is much sweeter than what we buy from the shops. That's because the original strawberry was tiny and vulnerable to pests. But then, farmers brought a new variant from South America to Europe, which was much bigger and far more resilient, but less sweet. French farmers crossed the two species together, and voila, we have the modern strawberry. So, what does all of this say about the way we think about nature? Like a lot of people, I also tend to think that the more natural what we eat is, then the healthier it's going to be. And a lot of the time, that's probably good advice. But what is natural? Some people obsessed with eating a natural diet insist on a raw diet, eating organic produce that don't require cooking. Naturally, this diet consists of a lot of fruits, vegetables, and grains. The irony here is that most of these food ingredients didn't even exist in the past, or at least not in the shape or form that we would find recognizable. The truth is that cooking with fire was around for much longer than many of these produce. The reason that cooking with fire was so revolutionary is that most of the food that our ancestors gathered from nature was simply not as nutritious as the fruits, nuts, and vegetables that we can grow today. Take the banana, for example. It used to have hard seeds, so many of them that it rendered the fruit inedible, as it were. However, it's believed to have been used in cooking and cultivated for that reason. So the next time I'm going to sit by a fruit basket or by the dinner table, I'm going to give thanks to the generation of nameless farmers that came before me and left for me a more pleasant produce to enjoy than what was left for them at their table.